Hello and welcome to episode 6 of the Gunter Wulff Bingolett.
Welcome to Ralph's house!
Right, I'd better bring you up to date. So far, we repaired that relay. Without that relay, the payout won't work, by the way. Well, actually, without any of these relays, it won't work. A new coin tube made out of Wick's wardrobe pole. But it looks great, doesn't it? Coin payout works. I'll just show you that. That just proves the point. Now, it's worth bearing in mind, and anybody who's had trouble with a Bingolett or a Rialto or a Tivoli or a Bingolett, not the prettiest one of the bunch, you've got to remember that it is largely mechanical, well, with a mix of electrical, but it's got effectively, well, these leaf switches, they're like points on a car. So obviously, if you've ever had to deal with an old car, not so many people have, you're always adjusting the points. Thankfully now everything's electronic, and rightly so. But if you get a dirty contact anywhere, you'll run into problems. Now, one of the issues I had was, let's flip it round to the front and I'll explain it. Now, normally when you play a game, before you put your money in, the ball is sitting there. And as soon as you put 20p in the machine, the coin mechanism activates a little micro switch. And that in turn starts the big cam motor on the top. That's the one with all the switches. There's 12 in all. And there are also switches beneath it. There's 4. Again, with more of those points, leaf switches. And the first thing that will happen is the ball will drop. Okay, then you fire the ball, goes through all your pins. Nothing's happening here, it's just really the random part of it, until it drops through one of these, which is allocated to a number at the top. Oh, and by the way, because I only had one of these when I got the machine, I've replicated, push it back, I've replicated it on my 3D printer and made enough for all of those. Very important that they've got shades, otherwise, you know, you'll get stray light everywhere. Anyway, the ball drops through, then it drops into this hole again, which triggers the machine to drop the ball again, ready for the second play, and so on till the third play, and then eventually the cam comes to a stop. Well, unfortunately for me, what was happening was the cam would start, sort of, the ball would drop, you'd run the ball round, well, I'd just have money by dropping the ball in, and it just wouldn't release it. Now, this is the reason why. It was these. The best way I found of checking these, and you'll need to clean them, deoxit is pretty good. You could use the finest sandpaper, but one wipe, don't do any more than that, otherwise you'll be wearing the points out. Right, you see all those points under there? What you've got to do is you've got to turn this cam, this is how I would suggest you do it, and make sure, because there's a bottom contact and a top contact, right? You want to make sure the top contact is being pushed up slightly. Can you see that? If you get one that's not being pushed up, there's a good chance it's not making good contact. Now, in my case, what was happening was a lot of the contacts were dirty. And this morning, I've given all 4 of these a proper clean. The first one, I actually unbolted it, but that seemed wholly unnecessary, really. It was just as easy the easy way to do it is to undo these 2 screws, and then you can access these. Now, as far as I know, everything works. That the 3 sequences on the cam at the top, they all work. The payout works. I've yet to put the coin mechanism in, but that's a small thing really. So as far as I'm concerned, electrically, this now functions 100%. It works. So that's pretty good, considering that what I got really was it was a bit of a mess in a lot of ways, because it didn't have the glass on it for a long period of time. Damp got in it. The mouse a mouse got in and started nibbling at that coil. They do, rodents, unfortunately. So really, then my next job, I guess, is to start concentrating on the artwork. Now, a few routes I can go with that. I was talking to my son, because he's studying graphic design at university, so it would be a nice project, one that we could do between us, I think. And I'll bat a few ideas, and maybe he'll come up with something, then eventually we'll come up with something. Now, we could try and reproduce the original Bingolett artwork, but it does have, it's partly mirrored, which is expensive to do, even if you do it at home. The only way I can think of doing it is because you can use an etcher on the back of glass to remove the bits that you don't want. That's a possibility. I've seen a few people do that. But if you've ever been in the print trade, you'll understand about register. Now, register is when you're putting paper through a 4-colour print process and one colour doesn't line up, you just see the edges of red on things. That's bad register. So to do artwork, the register would have to be spot on. Now, I'm inclined to not worry about the mirror finish, but make sure it's vibrant. So we could try and reproduce the original Bingolett artwork, or we could come up with something that's possibly even better, but of the time, of the period. So I'll be looking at that in episode 7, and we'll see where we go from there. The one thing I'm a bit short of at the moment is a proper scaled scan of the glass. Now, I do have the right scanner for that job, so if somebody had a Bingolett glass or a Rialto, that would do, and they're willing to remove it and lay it on a table, I'm happy to drive wherever and take my scanner with me and scan it, because I've got nothing to go on at the moment. The only other way is with the Perspex front I've got, is literally plotting everything with a marker pen where the main points have got to go. And I have a feeling that's the way we're going to have to go with this, because I don't know anybody locally near me with a Bingolett. Right, let's flip down to the front again, because I think that's more relevant. I've resprayed these. My gut feeling is that these should be powder coated, because powder coatings come in some really nice finishes these days that would match the original. I resisted the temptation to buy a gold spray, because although they were originally, I just felt they'd be a little bit on the bright side. You know what they are, these gold spray cans. So I actually opted for a bronze, which I think is better. It gives you a clean finish, but I'm thinking if you use this lever a lot, eventually you're going to wear the paint away. This is why I think powder coating is probably the way. But that said, it looks tidy for now, and I may put a plastic liner in that drawer anyway. I think it's a good idea in a coin drawer, although they do make that nice noise when the coins fall out. So let's see if we can simulate a game without actually putting a ball around the whole thing. At the moment, I'll just pan the camera down, the ball is sitting in there. As soon as I put money in it, there'll be a slight whir, and then that ball will drop ready to be fired. Okay, but you'll just have to take my word for it that that's what's happening. Okay, right, in fact I'm going to put my hand under the ball, otherwise I'll lose it. Right, I'm going to put my coin in. The ball's dropped. Now the ball comes round And let's say, by pure fluke, after it's bounced through all of these, it ends up in, I'm using the spoon to activate the switch, and the ball drops into the ball catcher. Here it were again, and then it's delivered ready at the trigger. So we fire the ball again, and it goes round randomly, but hey presto, it goes in the same place. Second light's on. So whatever that number is, we only need 3 to get a payout. Okay, the ball of course is now dropped in the cup. The cam's released it, ready for the third shot. Then we fire the ball round again because we're dead keen. Randomly, and of course it drops in the same place. Now the third light and this bottom light is saying you've got a payout, by which point the ball has dropped into the cup again. There you go, payout, and all the lights go out because that's the end of that game. So as far as I'm concerned, that now works. I just thought I'd talk about all these units on the back because, you know, I was completely green to it. I hadn't got a clue. But what I can tell you is this whole cam and switches is all related to whether you put the coin in, allowing you to play 3 balls, that sort of stuff, and how much of the payout. I haven't quite worked out how the payout is set up, but needless to say it works. But these 4 banks here, there are 4 numbers on the board, on the playfield, 1, 2, 3 and 4, and you can get them in various combinations. This one deals with the number 1, so anything to do with number 1, maybe the bulb doesn't light up, maybe something doesn't work on it, you would look at that, look at number 1 bank, number 2, number 3 and number 4. So in a way that makes that fairly simple, you know, in terms of diagnosing it. But let's wind this up, and I'll just show you all the numbers lighting up, and then, as I say, in episode 7 we'll get on to putting some sort of artwork up that's a bit tidier than what we've already got. As you can see, I've stuck some I just printed them off in Word. Took a while to work out how to get the sizes and the length of the columns, but they're near enough. And it's really just to sort of test how they light up, so you'll get a better idea. I'll do this one first. So all the 2s, do it again, another 2. Because obviously if you've got a 3 and a 1 on the next one, you'd win on that line. And that would be an 80p payout, you see. When you get the last one, it always lights that one up. So you get the idea. Unfortunately, what I can't do is run a ball around it, and the reason being is, although the steel ball fits, it's just too much for the flipper to try and get it around the track. It's too much weight. And I'll tell you what, anybody who's got a Bingolett, a Rialto or a Tivoli, they probably don't realise this, but that weight of that ball is absolutely crucial. Not only its weight, its composition, because it's ideally it wants to bounce, so it needs to have some sort of rubber composite in it, but it also needs to be heavy enough to drop through the slots, but it needs to be light enough to be able to send it round the board. I'm sort of at a loss really. I've tried so many different balls. Tried, just to give you an idea, tried some of these, some white ones that were slightly heavier, wrong size, and I honestly don't know the size of this ball, and only somebody with a Rialto or Bingolett would be able to tell me, but I think it's 16 or 17 millimetre across, judging by the gaps that it's got to go through, and when it drops in the slot at the bottom ready to be delivered to the next play. So it's going to be about 16, 17. I think 18 would be pushing it, really. So I'd say 17 max, but getting a 17mm ball is not the easiest thing. So we've got it up and running, we've got it up and paying out. So as soon as the ball arrives and the new springs and little odds and ends that I need to finish this off, we'll get into the artwork. That'll be the next one. That'll be probably the final one. That will be episode 7.
Oh, and don't forget to subscribe.